You are now listening to the I Think I Love My Wife podcast. And this is your best friend's best friend, Chidozie Okafor, ready to take you on another journey. Are you with me? Because I'm ready. Let's get it. This episode is sponsored by Nello Effect, a coaching and consulting service that helps people turn mindfulness into action as they navigate the dating world as well as their relationships. Follow on Instagram at nello.effect and find more information in the episode description. Today we talk about key attributes in a good partner, swiping with intentions on the apps, supporting a partner in the midst of adversity, and the importance of showing up for someone in vulnerable moments. Hey everyone, this is Chidozie. I'm back with Julian. We were having a great discussion, not only about his relationship and how it got started, but also some of the mental health aspects of navigating breakup and getting back on the horse to find the person that you care about. And so I know you guys are accustomed to me asking several questions, so I want to get back to that with Julian, and then we could take it from there.
Hey, Chidozie, before we do that, I do have something you made me think of that I want to kind of share with everyone. When you think about one of the best pieces of advice I got around like finding that right person actually came from someone who had recently gotten divorced. And when I was probably 22, and I just kind of wrote it off. But in hindsight, it was really good advice. And so what she told me was that, hey, when you're looking for that, the one and all this other stuff, the thing that you got to think about is like look for the person that's going to be with you during some of the most difficult moments in your life. Because if you think about it, you're 22 now, your parents are going to get older, all these things. Like, so there's going to be deaths involved, divorces, all these other things. And you want someone that, as you're looking at your potential partner, that is going to be the person that's going to hold your hand and walk through those type of very difficult situations with you. She's like, everyone looks at this from a rosy perspective. I want the person I can travel with and all these things, but like, is that person the same person that can handle these very tough decisions with you? That's one thing to think about as you're looking for that significant other. And I've been blessed to have that person that can walk that walk with me and really go through some of these very tough things that we've been going through over the course of our time together.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think, outside of the control piece, one of the other things that I feel like I take my time to before I could jump into relationships, because I think it's important to see people in seasons. And one of the biggest seasons, and not that you want to wish adversity on someone, but you don't know when you're going to see these seasons, right? Mm-hmm. So to the degree that you can. But I think it's very important, and to me, in some ways attractive, to see how people, it can be attractive, to see how people navigate adversity. Some people, everything's great, they're great, but when adversity hits, they're just a wreck. Yeah. And they can't even pick themselves up to like figure out whether it's like, how do I proactively think about what I need to do in the situation, or how do we, just to move forward is just like very much debilitating for them. And so for me, it was one of the most important things to understand, because when you see somebody in those situations, you're like, yo, if this is just you, or just us, what happens when we hit adversity when we got kids? What happens when we hit adversity and let's say it's about your job, but this adversity is about life, and you couldn't handle some of what we may feel, and it's not that it's absolute, but may feel is more minor types of adversity. When you get to bigger things, like you're not gonna all of a sudden have the ability to cope, with adversity. And so to me, I try to see people in seasons, and I guess I'm scared to invest. We use the analogy we talked about before, until I feel confident about them in those ways. Because my parents have been married for going on 38 years. I know it's hard, and I know it's not easy, and I know it's not always fun. And so I really want to understand how people navigate those situations, and what's their character like in those environments, versus like anybody can, you know me. I can get along with a lot of people. Like, I can go on a trip with someone and have a good time. That's not hard to me. But I don't know how it's going to be when I have to depend on you and how you're going to show up. And to me, the biggest roadblock that I think I've run into is that with women, sometimes it's hard to get to that point unless you're in a relationship with them.
That's fair.
Like some of that stuff I want to see beforehand. Like I have no problem being very much engaged, treat you the way you need to be treated, without like those titles, alignment, or whatever. Like if I'm rocking with you, I have no problem doing that because I really want to see those different vantage points of you and how you operate in those situations. But I think sometimes women need that extra layer of, I guess, security and comfort that comes to, having a relationship, and it's just about us being messaged to them, where they're like, oh, now I can take my bra off. Now I can have my face off and my wig off, and now I can show you who I truly am. And it's like I've been trying to see that from jump, because now I'm gonna know. I don't want to be in a relationship to start to understand who you really are. That's my that's like my dilemma. Is like sometimes it takes being like getting someone to like you enough to want to be in a relationship, to then be in a relationship so they can show you who they are. And I'm like, why can't we just start from jump, showing each other who we are? Because then I'm already committed to making it work, and I'm seeing you're not who I thought you were.
It's the gratification thing you mentioned earlier, right? With social media and stuff like that, everyone puts on their best face, right? And so that has bled through everything that we do. So you put on your best face. I don't want to show you the negative stuff. I want you to only see the positive. You come over, I throw everything in the closet.
Yeah.
See that, right? And so I think that
it's tough. And I don't know how to navigate that.
That's what made that advice so good for me. And granted, she told me this when I was 22, so obviously I did.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, I'm worried about this.
That's decades. No, we can deal with that later. But at me now, I'm like, oh man, she hit this on the head. Like this is profound. You think about these things you would tell your younger self. Those are like, yeah, man, go back and listen to that.
For sure. I hope this lives on so that people that are younger can hear it and have that perspective. I think that's a really good point. And you made me think of something my mom told me when people have these conversations of compatibility, right? And you mentioned that you and your wife are very different. I would challenge you, and you correct me if I'm wrong, to say that I think in ways that you guys may be very different, when it comes to core values and principles, you guys are very much aligned. Is that true or false?
That's true.
And so my mom told me, and we could talk about what that looks like, but my mom told me that marriage is hard. She's like, regardless of who gets married and how they do it, what you see on Instagram, marriage is hard. You're taking two flawed individuals and trying to become one.
Yep.
And she's like, when you take something that's very hard and add components of, or where you're not aligned, let's say religion, or let's say a value system, you're taking something that's already hard and making it harder because you guys don't even see the picture the same way.
Yep.
And something that's going to be a core part of your life. And so that's another nugget, just throwing it out there. You made me think about it. When it talks about things that we heard when we were younger that resonate with me, to really try to make sure that compatibility is not always important, to your point, in terms of our personalities the same? Do we vibe exactly on the same things? Do we like the same music? But I think it's important, and Justin mentioned this too, that it's important to have this, your big rocks are aligned.
Yeah.
What are those big core things that are important to you, important to her, and making sure that you guys see it the same way, because those are what's could break up a relationship.
Yeah.
The little things can fit through the crevices.
Yeah. And to your point, one person can see stability by means of, I'm stable, meaning we're in a house, we're in love. The other person can see that financially, just depending on how you grew up, right? And one person might be we might be saying the same thing. Hey, we're both focused on us being stable, but you're saying I really want us to be home and being together. That's my stability. The other person well, I got to go get this money, so I'm out doing my thing. So that's my stability, right? And so someone that you can have that conversation with and really make sure that not only the titles of those big buckets are the same, but the definitions are the same as well.
No, listen, I'm question king out here. People get annoyed that I ask questions, and I tell people, I don't know how you see the world, and I would hate to ever assume that the way you told me something is how I received it, and so it's on me to ask the questions if I don't understand or I'm not sure if I understand, and so I firmly believe that. And I think one of the things that I will say I've done in my dating life as I've gotten older is I've been less focused on like making sure we have fun, so to speak. Like you want to do cool activities and stuff, you want to have nice experiences, but to me, I've been more intentional about having like real conversations early to really understand how people see the world, experience the world, and think of the world. Because sometimes it's challenging because there are certain situations or things that you ask people that you can tell like they just haven't had time to think about. Like, oh, we can talk about it later. But to me, having those deeper conversations on the first and second and third date to the level that that person's comfortable with has been, I think, very much so informative than, hey, we just had a really good time, and we just like kikied it up. That's cool and all, but I think you learn a lot from asking people questions and like just seeing how they see the world, independent of you being in it. I think is super helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing is like making sure you're asking the right questions, right? Like, and understanding what you don't know, and what answer. And to your point earlier, what type of answer would send a red flag to you or something like that says like, oh, okay, like I need to be honest with myself that this wasn't the answer that I was looking for. What does that mean for me?
That's the real thing, and I think even in this whole dating app culture that we're in now, I think people got to be more real with themselves of what they want and what they don't want.
Yeah.
And I had to have that conversation with myself in the sense of, I wasn't a person that swiped right on it. I mean, I'm picky, but I didn't swipe right on everybody. But there are definitely people that I would swipe right on, match with, and then like it wouldn't go anywhere because I knew that there were a lot of things I just were either red flags or I just didn't want.
Yeah.
Even though they might have been attractive and cool. And so I think sometimes again, goes back to the instant gratification. It's like someone posts a picture on Instagram. They want a whole bunch of likes, right?
Fair.
And I would tell people, like, well, what likes are they like? Do we put weight to the likes? Like, what likes really matter more? When you're going to like let's say a gala or something, and you post your picture right before the gala or wedding, obviously you look great, right? You post that, you get 1,000 likes. Let's say you wake up the morning after that gala and you all turned up and you post a picture of how you looking then. Let's say you get 300 likes. Which one is more important? The people that like, I'm sure that people that liked the picture after the gala were part of the people that liked the before the gala. Like, are you happy that you got the 1,000 likes when you were like at your most optimal self that happens every blue moon, or this is how you normally wake up? and which one matters more, right? Is it the 1,000 likes of you at your best and you had to bring in a hairdresser and you had to have someone beat your face up, or you had a fresh cut, or was it? Now, like during COVID, when the cul-de-sacs were growing because we couldn't go to the barbershop,
That's funny.
Who liked those more, and where do we put more weight to those likes? And I think it's the same way with the dating apps. We swipe sometimes because we want to know that people like us, so we want to see like how many people are gonna like us back. When it's like, to me now, I had to take a break. I got off the apps. So I was like, I just need a break from this because I wasn't. I guess swiping with I wasn't in the right space for it actually. So I wasn't like, I would say, following up on matches the way that I should.
Got it.
And so I was adding to like the whole like these apps are trash kind of mindset because that's the experience I was giving. And so I was like, well, I'm not giving a great experience, so I just need to get off because I want to add to this sentiment of like all the apps are trash. So I got back on, and like my mindset now is one of it's less about the likes and matches and more about like people that I feel like I'm going to actually respond to and like want to go take out. And so now sometimes you'll be swiping like, man, she's cute. And to your point, like knowing what those big things are. And I'm like, man, like, she's not a Christian. Like I should, like, you'll see that, oh, she's agnostic. Well, before I'm like, well, we can talk about this, figure it out. But like, that's really important to me. And so although I might want to have that match at the end of the day, it's like, oh, I shouldn't really swipe on this.
Yeah. Yeah. And
or this person, go ahead.
And I think your priorities change too, right? Like the things that in the big rocks, you might learn something about yourself, or you might have this experience, and now something that was a big rock is a lot smaller, right? Like, and you adapt to that. I think that is the human experience of like, you learn more information and you deal with that as you go. Like maybe before you were like your priorities were different when you were swiping right compared to right now, right?
It's true, and I get that, but I think I get what you're saying. Like me swiping 4 years ago versus now could have been very much different parties. But I'm talking about from like a year ago, right? They haven't changed that much, right? And so I think I say that to say that like people have to be okay not getting that gratification they're accustomed to have more meaningful interactions, you know. Like I'm okay, like my Bumble and Hinge ain't popping, but I do know like the ones that will match and do match are gonna be ones that I'm actually like I'm excited about. Like I'm hoping, like I hope she swipes right on me, you know, versus meh. And I think sometimes we swipe right on meh, and then like we don't like we respond like 2 days later. You know, we don't give them the same energy and effort that we should, and then it creates this almost compound effect of experience. You know.
So do you think
that people have their guards up even more?
So, question on something that we talked about earlier: do you think that that's giving you control, or are you releasing control by doing that?
What do you mean?
So you're controlling like the pool, right? Like so before you're kind of on this like not uncontrollable rampage, like swipe.
I wasn't swiping that fast, but yeah, I wasn't swiping that fast, but
now,
I hear what you're saying.
I'm an OG, so I wasn't on the dating app. So when I picture y'all,
lucky you.
I picture you swiping finger hot.
It's always funny how like the people that got out the game before the apps just get so excited when they can see somebody's app and start swiping. Like, yeah, stop it.
You know, I picture y'all finger hot from swiping so much, but
mine goes left a lot. But yeah, keep going.
But I guess the question is, like, where is the control for Chizozi in that aspect of like, do you feel like you took control by being very thoughtful and like focusing on like what you do on those apps, or do you feel like you release control in a certain experience, part of it by like really just like not doing some of these things? Like, so where are you in that, and does that control piece play in that?
Yeah, I think me getting off the apps was a release of control, because as a man, right, like a woman can just say, I'm not going to do this, right, for example. And there still be guys, like, for example, if a woman says, I'm not trying to date right now, that doesn't stop people from shooting at her. She can say no, but she doesn't know what she's going to see that might change her mind.
That's true.
As a man, we are hunting, or we are ones seeking out the people. And so if we say we are not going to do it, then it's like large part of it, like nothing's going to come. Like you don't have no action. And so to me, I was giving up some control by getting off of it to like whatever happens, right?
Gotcha.
But me swiping was controlling that, like I'm seeing what's out there, and I'm doing some type of activity related towards dating. And so I got off to release control.
That's right.
I don't know that the act of once I'm on it is about control or not. I think for me it's more about me trying to be more intentional about respecting people's time, energy, mindset, and make sure that anything associated with me is providing the experience that I want. And so I didn't want a whole bunch of people in my match page that like it just deaded, right? Because I just didn't. I matched you, and it's like, do I really want to take you out? It's like, nah. I knew that before I matched, right? Like I knew that before I swiped right. Or if there's certain hard lines where, and no offense to someone that isn't educated or things like that, because you can learn a lot of different ways. But if I would see like high school education on there, I would swipe left, and it was just like, well, to me in my head, what we could go do from a future earnings potential and how we can provide for our future kids is like limited, statistically speaking, from having a high school diploma. So I just didn't want that, right? And so before I wouldn't care, I just swipe right on that. But to me, those are right, wrong, and different. Those are things that add to the attractiveness level of someone. Someone that has a degree, someone that like is Christian, someone that all those things add to what is attractive about an individual. That then makes me more willing to say, yo, I want to go, like, I don't even care that we talk that much. I want to just go spend time with you to see what you like.
Got it.
Other folks, I might want to like go talk to them a bunch and then get a lot more. That's the control. Get a lot more clarity. Like, do I really want to take this person out? And so I just didn't want to invest time in, right? People that I knew like the test wasn't going to pass, right? It was we could try all the day and it wasn't going to pass the initial test. Like I wouldn't bring her to my mom. I wouldn't like, I'm not going to bring this person to my mom.
The mom test. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like, I know my mom's going to say something about this and like, or family would. And so I don't even want to deal with that. That's important to me too. Why are we wasting time, right? And so I started being more intentional in that regard versus, maybe there might be a possibility that you're like, no, this is not going to work. I know myself. My friends are like, this is not going to work. This is just going to be for fun. And I'm trying to get out of the mindset of short-term just short term benefit, and not just talking like or specifically talking about sex or sex at all. It's like it's fun when you go out, people, that excitement when you meet someone new and
Yeah.
you trying to see what's up. But if I know there's not like a desire for me to like this has long term potential, I'm definitely being better about like let's not even engage or waste that person's time, my time, and all that. And so, trying to be better about it. But like, there's still I'm guilty of it too. There's still this instant like we want to see all like our app being blown up with matches, and we want to see likes, and we want to see all these things. And I think knowing yourself, like you said, is super important to then know what it is you want, don't want, can put up with, won't put up with, in those true preferences, even though they may change. I think it's important to really invest the time to knowing those, taking breaks when you need to, whether it's on the apps from dating or what have you, to be make sure you're coming to the table your best self and how you want people to handle you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we gotta move on. We hit a lot of different good topics, but I want to get to some of the topics about your wife, and then there's
Yeah.
some other areas that we can talk about. What do you love about your wife?
Man, I love just her personality that radiates. She loves everybody. She is very thoughtful in terms of how she thinks of other people, whether she's making a decision for herself or for the family or whatever. I think the other thing about her that is just amazing for me is that she can handle her own, right? Like she doesn't need me to validate anything about her or about her intelligence or anything like that. She is a beast in her own right, and so it's always cool to see her kind of grow through that transition and really become better. And then I think the last piece is like as a wife, a mother, kind of CEO of the Herbert household to a certain extent. She's just selfless, right? And selfless at managing everything, selfless at loving our kids, loving me, selfless at loving our family. And so she just walks in and fits right into the puzzle. Like my family, you could ask my family, they would think they treat her just like any other cousin or niece or nephew, and that's not consistent across all of my family.
Yeah.
So it's great to just see that um, that selflessness really begets just other people loving her as well. And so I always say that I dated up, and I'm a strong believer in that. And
I mean, that's the goal, right?
yeah,
At least the sentiment of it.
and watching her as a mother, man, it's just beautiful to watch as well. To see just our boys know that they are loved and never have to hesitate to like they get the kisses and the hugs and it's all gravy and they know that that love is there. So yeah, it's just great to just be a part of her life and have her in mind as well.
Was there any? This is a question you made me think about as you were talking. Were there any attributes that you weren't certain about in your wife, or you didn't know about in your wife, that definitely showed up in her as a mother, that like caught you off guard?
Ooh, I think the thing I didn't completely know about her is her willingness or her protectiveness. Right? She like sometimes I have to like, yo, chill, right?
Hmm.
Like who pushed him down? Like I'm like, man, cool, it'll be all right. Like, and so I think that protectiveness to the extent that like sometimes she sends me to because I'm like very chill in certain
Hmm.
situations because she knows she might just like go off, especially about her kids or her family. And so I just wasn't privy to that because it was just the two of us and like I didn't need the protection. She, and
Yeah.
so I never saw that. And so seeing her with the kids and like being very defensive of how they're treated and being very mindful of how they're treated, especially here, like, New Orleans is pretty much a city that is like pretty much basically have and have nots. That's kind of how the city is defined. And so
Hmm.
if you have a certain income, your kids are in certain situations where they really, they don't look, a lot of folks don't look like us. And so she's very mindful about every decision and every reaction that we get in those situations to the extent that like sometimes it's a little overboard and I got to kind of like
Yeah. Reel it in.
reel it in a bit. And, but to the other end of that spectrum, it's great to see someone have that passion, right? Like, because I'm a
Yeah.
very
For,
kind of chill, monotone person. And for someone to be like, ready to if at somebody if it go down, then it's cool to see.
Yeah, and I ask that question because I mean I think the degree in which I knew her at Michigan, um, she seemed like a very assertive person. You
Mhm.
know, and I don't know if you agree with that or not. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, I think she was assertive, but like I think that's a different level of like almost like was it Mama Cub or Mama Bear, right? Like that Mama Bear
true,
mentality. I
but
think
I guess
I
go
wasn't
ahead.
expecting that.
True, and I asked that because I think to even be in that level, like to me, when I see someone that's assertive in some aspects, and then Mama Bear comes out, that's like a byproduct of a characteristic that you have, right? You didn't know the degree, but it's not like out of character, right?
That's fair.
And so I wonder, and I hear that some women, when they get, when they become mothers, you see certain things that you may not seen before. And so I wonder, is it, to your knowledge and what you've seen, is it a more of a deeper byproduct of what they already had, or do you see complete transformation? Someone that's a little bit more chill, and someone that's maybe not be as proactive, all of a sudden now learn to do those things or start doing those things because they're a mother. Because sometimes I see those personality traits. And I'm like, well, I need someone that's gonna, get, when it's time, I don't have to be the only person that's bowdy. And so is that gonna be only me, or is that gonna kick in? And you don't know because everybody's different.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the spaces that we were in, the thing was, if it was there, it was very muted in the spaces that we were in before
Yeah.
we moved here, and I think in certain cities or certain places you just got to have that level of aggression to be heard, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the difference, is that she became, in my mind, very adaptable to her surroundings, right? And like, okay, if we throwing chairs, like that's what it is, right?
I can match your energy.
Right. And I think that's the thing that like, because sometimes I brought people I've dated around my family, and like they kind of shell up because my family is like big and aggressive. Like
Yeah.
they're gonna, if it's a new girl, they're gonna push like what's going on, like
Mm-hmm.
what y'all doing, blah blah blah. And so she's just like in it. She's like,
Yeah.
and she will, and if someone is telling one of my kids something, regardless of who that is, like they can all get it, and they all know that
Yeah.
they can get it.
No one's safe.
Yeah, and so I think that was the big thing for me. Of like, I was like, man, I don't know how this is gonna go with my friends and my family, and they were like, oh man, we don't mess with her. Like,
Yeah, we know better.
yeah, we know it's cool. So I think that was a big thing for me, and actually it was something I realized I really was like, oh, I haven't seen this before. This is great.
Okay, for sure. So you talked about things that you love about your wife. What do you think makes her special?
Ooh, what makes her special in my mind is that she just does not give up. We talked about adversity a lot. When I met her, probably like maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, her grandfather had passed away, and they were extremely close. And so,
Mm-hmm.
to your point about like getting those seasons to kind of see how people react, I was like in one of the most emotional points in her life, right? And and she just doesn't give up. A lot of folks would have quit law school and stuff and like really tried to deal with that. And she powered through, even though it was tough. And, they didn't give her a lot of time to bereavement or anything like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was something that stuck out to me. I think the other thing, as we made moves, transitions to different parts of the country, initially she made sacrifices, and it made her career tough, and she just powered through everywhere we went. She really killed whatever the role was she ended up having to take. And then when she finally got into the thing that she wanted to do, when we're back down here, she's like killing it, right? And so I think that adversity in my mind was something that like I always am like very one mindful of, but very like impressed by as well.
No, no, that's real. And I was gonna ask the question, when you talked about her grandfather passing, right? And how did you show up for her? Because that's still probably, I imagine, early in your relationship. How did you show up for her? Because I've been in a situation where people ask me for advice. Like they're dating someone and someone passed. Like, how do I take a step back? You could have done that, but how did you show up for her?
Yeah, yeah.
In that.
And this was super early. I mean, like we weren't even like theoretically dating when this happened.
Yep.
And so I kind of let her guide me of what she needed from me, like, right? Because I knew I didn't want to, show up and all her family members asking her questions at this time about who's this guy and all this
Yep.
other stuff, right? Like that seems kind of weird at that moment. And so I was kind of very mindful of that. But I think the other part was just asking her, what she needed. And so when she needed a ride to go do something, I just did it. Like I did whatever I could do to support, like and also was open ear to kind of talk about whether that was in. And what I ended up learning was, or figuring out, was that at that moment she was still internalizing, kind of dealing with it, but during bits and pieces of our time together, small pieces of it would come out, right? And like, oh, I wish that you guys had talked because this was a very, critical thing. But I also shared about, I lost my grandparents 2 months behind each other right after I graduated from college. And I was extremely close to them, to the point like they practically almost raised me during the day. And so I kind of shared some of my, stuff with that as well, of like what I felt. And I kind of knew that, everyone has their own way to grieve. And so, for me, it was just let people grieve the way they want to grieve, but you be the ear whenever they need it, and see, they'll kind of guide you. And so that was kind of how I approached it, and took her on a trip and like tried to like provide some ray of sunshine there as well for her to kind of change some things as well.
No, that's what's up. Do you think like that moment and that experience uh, accelerated things for y'all, or at the least made y'all closer together?
I think it had some things to do with it. What's funny is her old dude came to the all the family stuff, right? Like because he was in town, and so like obviously as a guy, you're like, whoa, hold up, like yeah,
Yeah.
the young bull trying to assert that like hey, I got to see what's going on. But I think a part of me was like, um, let's kind of see how this goes. And I think the thing that it forced me to do was to be very much more emotional about my own feelings earlier than I probably would have normally. And
In terms of expressive,
yeah, expressive, like about her, about like
yeah.
the situation with my grandparents. Like I never told anybody about that stuff. And so I think it just opened me up a bit better earlier, which I think helped our relationship in the long haul.
Yeah, cool. No, I appreciate you for sharing that. Was there the podcast is called I Think I Love My Wife, and I think guys in some cases know that they care about someone deeply. They may be fighting that feeling, and then so a series of experiences or a moment happens where they say to themselves, you know what, I think I love this woman, and it's more of a validation of what they've been feeling or affirmation of it than a question of it. So what would you say was like the point or a moment where you were like, you know what, I think I love this woman?
Yeah, man, I think I'll never forget this moment. So I hate public speaking, hate it with a passion. And there are some,
That's funny. I met you. You were public speaking for
right,
MLT.
there are some of my friends in business school who are notorious hecklers. And one of my
Yeah.
best friends is a notorious heckler. And I remember giving this speech, man, he heckled me hard, like to the point where like I stumbled through the whole thing, man, and I was down. And so she, now that we talk about it in this mama bear way, like got on him, like yo, that's supposed to be your boy. Like he clearly is struggling with this. Like, what are you doing? And and she never really even used to talk to him like that. And so it was just, and she disliked him for years. Like after that, right? Like I had to like mediate that relationship. But it was for someone to like a fresh relationship to care about me that much, man, and like know that this is something that I struggle with. And to your point about like showing your best face, like no one knows that I struggle with this that much or am that nervous about it, but she recognized it very quickly and was protective about it. And so I think for me, that really stuck out to me. And then she helped me get over it more, right? Like, okay, cool, let's run through it. Like let's get you to a place that you need to be. or that you feel like you need to be, right? Because I don't think anything's wrong with you, but like if you feel like you need to fix this, like let's work on it. And
Yeah.
so for someone to like be there and be supportive, I was smitten, man. I was like, let me tell this girl I love her, man.
No, that's real. That's real. Was it a conversation that you guys had where you shared that, or she just realized that and noticed it?
She saw how I think she more so noticed it. She saw how I was nervous about the whole thing initially without telling her, but she also saw my face after the heckling and like my reaction, my body reaction and everything. And like she immediately knew it was off.
Yeah.
And so her level of support through a lot of decisions that I had to make and just being kind of ride or die on that just like sealed the deal for me.
Bruh, it pays to have a good one. I guess this is what they meant when they say a man who finds a wife finds a good thing. And I think this episode's been pretty good. If you agree, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and share this episode with someone you feel that needs it. Julian, I appreciate your time. This has been so good. We didn't even get to the quick fire round, so I'm going to bring you back and make sure we go through that and a couple other questions that I had. In the meantime, make sure you follow on Instagram at ThinkLoveWife and join us next week as we get a little bit more serious and talk about navigating a challenging and emotionally difficult pregnancy, some of the important decisions you have to make as a parent, and the way to rebound as a unit. I hope you've enjoyed it. And until next time, I hope the conversation keeps going.